This is my house. Your name is not on anything here. Leave your key on the table and get out.
Jade did not argue. She placed the key on the table. She picked up her suitcase. And she walked out of the house she had been paying for with her own money for over 2 years. Kevin thought he had won something that night. 3 weeks later, he brought home a woman named Priya. She was 28, a junior account manager at a firm across town. They had met at a bar 6 weeks before Kevin ended things with Jade. He had told Priya he was single. He told her a lot of things. Priya walked into a kitchen Jade had designed, past walls Jade had painted, through a hallway Jade had tiled, and into a garden Jade had planted from bare soil. She walked into all of this carrying a weekend bag and a belief that she was starting something new with a man who had a beautiful home and good taste, and an unfortunate ex who had never pulled her weight. Nobody corrected her. Kevin certainly did not. So she unpacked her clothes into closets Jade had organized, cooked in a kitchen Jade had renovated, and slept in a bedroom Jade had painted, and she believed all of it belonged to the man lying next to her. She had no idea she was living inside someone else's work. And she had no idea that the woman who built it was about to open her own front door 2 years later and invite 30 people to celebrate. Before we go any deeper into this story, please like this video, subscribe to her drama tales, and tell us in the comments where in the world you are watching from right now. We want to know exactly where you are. Now let us get back into the story. The house was legally in Kevin's name. That is the part he used like a weapon. He had signed the paperwork when they moved in together 3 years earlier. His name went on the deed because his credit score was marginally better and the mortgage broker said it would simplify the application. Jade agreed because at the time it felt like a technicality between two people building a life together. Whose name sat on which document did not seem like it mattered. It started mattering the first month the mortgage was due. Kevin said his cash flow was complicated. Something about commissions being delayed and an investment that had not matured yet. Jade covered the payment from her own savings account. He said he would pay her back. The second month, the same story. The fourth month, she stopped asking and just set up an automatic transfer because the alternative was the mortgage not being paid, and she was not willing to let that happen to a house she lived in. She paid every month for 2 years and 3 months. She kept every bank statement in a folder in her desk drawer. She never mentioned it to anyone except her sister Simone. But the mortgage was only the beginning. 8 months in, Jade decided the kitchen needed renovating. The cabinets were cheap laminate already peeling at the edges. The layout made no sense. The hob was too far from the sink, the counter space was broken up by a pointless structural column, and there was nowhere to actually prepare food without bumping into something. Kevin said he liked it fine. Jade said she would handle it. She designed every cabinet herself. She spent 3 weeks finding the right tile maker, a woman who made small terracotta tiles by hand. She negotiated the final price down by 14%. She spent 2 full weekends overseeing the installation because the fitter kept trying to cut corners she had specifically told him not to cut. The total cost came from her savings. Kevin contributed nothing except the opinion that the tiles were a bit orange. She repainted 4 rooms over 3 weekends. She had gotten quotes from contractors first, looked at the numbers, looked at her own 2 hands, and decided she could do it better for less. She was right on both counts. She tested every color in morning light and lamplight and flat gray afternoon light before committing because she wanted colors that worked on the difficult days, not just the good ones. The garden she planted from scratch the first spring. The back of the house was a rectangle of patchy grass and compacted soil when they moved in. Jade bought seedlings from a Saturday market and spent most of a weekend on her knees in the dirt, breaking up soil, putting in lavender and rosemary and a climbing rose along the back fence. Kevin was inside watching football. He came out once to ask if she wanted a drink. She said yes. He went back inside and forgot. Kevin knew all of this. Every single detail. He knew which account the mortgage payments came from. He knew who chose the tiles and who painted the walls and who spent that Saturday in April with soil under her fingernails while he watched a match he could not remember the result of 1 week later. He knew it, and he still told people she contributed nothing. He started saying it about 8 months before the end. Casual remarks at dinners. Jokes to mutual friends that were not quite jokes. Jade does not really do much around the house. She is lucky I keep a roof over her head. He said it enough times in enough rooms that it stopped feeling like a lie and started feeling like memory. Like something he actually believed. The night he ended things was not loud. There was no screaming. Kevin came home on a Tuesday with the particular energy of a man who has rehearsed a conversation in the car and is now ready to deliver it. He told Jade it was not working. He told her she needed to go. She asked what he meant by go. He meant leave. His name on the house. Hers not. Take her things. Tonight. Jade stood in the kitchen she had designed and looked at him. She thought about 27 months of mortgage payments. About the tiles she had spent 3 weeks sourcing. About the curtains she had found at a market stall on a cold Saturday morning. Exactly the right shade of warm yellow, and the specific satisfaction of hanging them and stepping back and watching the room become what she had imagined. She did not list any of this for him. She could already see in his face that it would make no difference. He had decided what she was worth, and no bank statement was going to change his mind. She had known for months the relationship was over. Her body had understood before her mind caught up. 2 days earlier she had packed a suitcase, telling herself she was reorganizing. But the passport was in the front pocket, and the phone charger was coiled on top, and she had packed the way a person packs when they know they are not coming back. She carried the suitcase to the hallway. She took the key from her pocket. She placed it on the table exactly where he had told her to. She looked at the yellow curtains one more time. Then she left. She stood on the pavement for 5 seconds. The street was quiet. Light from the living room came through those yellow curtains and made a warm rectangle on the ground. Jade was standing just outside of it. She called Simone. Her sister answered before the second ring. Simone always answered fast when Jade called at night. That was an agreement between them that had never been spoken aloud, but had never once been broken. He told me to leave, Jade said. One beat. Where are you? Outside. Do not move. Simone arrived in 22 minutes. She got out of the car, looked at Jade standing on the pavement with a suitcase, and said nothing. She put the suitcase in the boot. She put Jade in the passenger seat. She drove. At Simone's flat, they sat at the kitchen table with tea. Jade wrapped both hands around the mug and stared at the wood grain. He said I was a freeloader, Jade said. He told people I contributed nothing. He said it was his house. Simone set her mug down carefully. He said all of that. He told other people before he told me. I found out from Marcus at a dinner party 3 months ago. Marcus looked embarrassed. He thought I already knew. Simone held several responses back and chose carefully between them. The mortgage came from my account every month, Jade said. The kitchen, the tiles, the painting, all of it came from me. I know, Simone said. Do you know about the curtains? Simone looked at her directly. You called me from a market stall 18 months ago. You said you had found exactly the right shade of yellow. You sounded like someone who had just solved a problem that had been bothering them for weeks. Jade looked at her tea. They were the right shade. I know they were. They sat there for another hour without making plans or strategies. Jade just sat with her sister until the tea went cold and then went to the spare room and lay down. Before she closed her eyes, she sent Kevin one message. It said, I hope you know what you just did. He read it at 11:14. He did not reply. Kevin moved fast after she left. Within a week, he changed the locks. Within 2 weeks, he had rearranged the living room and bought a new duvet set. He told the story to anyone who would listen. She was dead weight. She contributed nothing. I carried her for years, and she left when things got real. He told it at pubs and at work lunches, and at a barbecue where 3 of the guests had eaten food Jade had cooked in that kitchen and knew exactly who had really held that house together. They said nothing. People rarely do when a man tells a story with that kind of confidence. Priya moved in 3 weeks after Jade left. She carried her bags through the front door and looked around and thought, this is a man who has his life together. The kitchen was beautiful. The walls were warm colors someone had chosen carefully. The garden, while slightly overgrown, had clearly once been loved. She assumed all of that was Kevin. Nobody corrected her. By month 6, the problems started arriving quietly. The kitchen sink developed a slow drip from the pipe underneath. Priya mentioned it. Kevin said he would call a plumber. She mentioned it again. He said it was on his list. By month 8, she had placed a bowl under the pipe and was emptying it every morning. She stopped bringing it up because bringing it up and not bringing it up produced the exact same result. She asked about repainting the bedroom. The walls were a flat, cold, pale color that made the room feel like a waiting room. Kevin said he would get paint samples. 11 months later, the walls were unchanged. The heating worked inconsistently. Some rooms warm, some rooms freezing. Kevin said it had always been that way. What Priya did not know was that the heating had worked perfectly when Jade lived there, because Jade had called a plumber twice about the zone valve. The sink had been fine because Jade had replaced the washer herself. The bedroom had once been a warm, carefully chosen shade of blue-gray that Jade had tested on the walls for days before committing to it. Priya was living inside someone else's care, and it was running out. She just did not know it yet. Jade's 2 years were not dramatic. They were just long and purposeful and quiet. She rented a small flat. 2 rooms, a bathroom with hot water that took 4 minutes to arrive. She bought a second-hand lamp from a charity shop because the overhead light was harsh and she refused to live under harsh light. She found a solid oak table that was slightly too big for the space and kept it because she liked how it felt under her hands. She saved money with a specific number in mind. She wrote it on a piece of paper and pinned it to the inside of her wardrobe door where she saw it every morning. She watched the gap close month by month. Simone came on Sundays. They had lunch, Jade mentioned the number once, Simone nodded, and then they talked about other things because the savings target was a fact, not a personality. In the 14th month, Jade started looking at properties. Not aspirationally. She had a budget and she stayed inside it, and she visited homes alone on weekday evenings and paid attention to the light and the bones and the feel of empty rooms. She found it after 4 months. A terrace house on a quiet street. 3 bedrooms, 1 more than she needed, but the price was right and she liked having room to grow into. A neglected garden at the back with good soil when she crouched and tested it between her fingers. A kitchen with real counter space. A living room with a bay window that held the afternoon light in a way that made her stop talking mid-sentence during the viewing and just stand there. The estate agent waited. Jade did not notice. Her name went on every document. Every single one. She spent 3 months making it hers before anyone came over. Paint colors she tested in patches on the wall and lived with for a full week in all kinds of light before committing. Furniture she chose by sitting in it and asking herself whether she would want it on a rainy Tuesday in February, not a golden Saturday when everything looks good. The kitchen she organized around how she actually moved when she cooked, which she had never been able to fully do in Kevin's house because the layout was established before she arrived. She planted the garden in April. Simone came and helped. They spent most of a Saturday on their knees in the soil and went inside with dirt under their fingernails and drank coffee at the kitchen table. Simone looked around. At the terracotta tiles behind the hob, small and warm. At the herbs in pots on the windowsill. At the small brass hook beside the front door where Jade had hung her key the day she moved in. "This is it," Simone said. "This is it," Jade said. She was looking at the key on the hook. Thinking about another key. The sound it had made on a different table in a different house. The feeling of setting it down and walking out. Her key. Her hook. Her door. She told Simone she wanted to have a housewarming. The invitations went to 30 people. Close friends. Family. The people who had shown up during the 2 years, not dramatically, just steadily. Kevin's name did not come up when she wrote the list. Not considered and rejected. Kevin found out from a mutual friend on a Thursday. The friend mentioned it without thinking. Jade is having a housewarming this weekend. Kevin heard the word housewarming and built a picture immediately in his head. A small flat. Cheap wine. Jade putting a brave face on something modest. He imagined walking in and being generous about it. Being the bigger person. He told Priya that evening. "We should go," he said. "We were not invited," Priya said. She would not mind. He said it without hesitation. It genuinely did not occur to him that there was a room in the world he might not be welcome in. Priya hesitated. She had been hearing Kevin's version of Jade for over a year. The freeloader. The passenger. The woman who contributed nothing. That was the only version she had, delivered by the man she was sharing a life with, so she had no reason to question it. She got in the car on Saturday evening. They pulled up outside a terrace house on a quiet street. Warm light in the bay window. Music coming through the walls. People visible inside, laughing, moving between rooms. Kevin rang the bell. Jade opened the door. She looked at him. Then at Priya. Then back at Kevin. Her face did not change. She processed it in 1 second and moved on. "Kevin," she said. "We heard about the party." He held up a bottle of wine. "Thought we would come and celebrate." She looked at the bottle. Then at him. Then she stepped back and held the door open. "Come in," she said. Simone was visible through the kitchen doorway. She saw Kevin walk through the door, and her face tightened for half a second, and then settled into a careful, controlled neutral. "I will get glasses," Simone said. Jade touched her sister's arm as she passed. 1 second of pressure. Simone kept walking without looking back, but her shoulders dropped slightly. Message received. Kevin walked through the house, immediately making calculations. The hallway had a console table, a plant, a mirror that made the space feel open, and the small brass key hook by the door with Jade's key hanging from it. The living room beyond had the bay window filled with evening light, a dark blue rug anchoring the room, bookshelves along one wall, furniture that looked comfortable because someone had chosen it to be comfortable rather than to impress. 30 people in the room, and every single one of them was at ease. The music was exactly the right volume. The food kept appearing before anyone noticed it was running low. The lighting was warm. The temperature was right. The room was working in the way a room only works when someone has thought carefully about every detail inside it. Kevin stood in it and felt something he would not have been able to name if someone asked him directly. The room was making a point without saying anything. He decided to say something first. "Nice little place," he said. Loud. Carrying across the room. A woman near him named Kara turned and looked at him. She looked at him the way you look at someone who has just said something revealing without realizing it. Then she turned back to her conversation. Kevin moved further into the room. He picked up a ceramic figure from the shelf beside the fireplace and turned it over in his hand. "Not bad for starting from scratch," he said louder now. A few heads turned. "Though I always said you were good at the decorating side of things, Jade. The actual finances, the real work, that was always more complicated." The room did not go silent, but it went quieter. Several conversations paused. Kara turned around again. The man named Peter, who had helped Jade move a sofa 3 months earlier, looked over steadily. Jade was standing in the kitchen doorway with a glass of water. She looked at Kevin with an expression that was completely level. Not angry. Not embarrassed. Level. "The finances were fine," she said. Her voice was clear and calm and carried easily. "I have 31 months of mortgage statements in my name that confirm that. I also have the receipts from the kitchen renovation, the painting, and the garden. All of it from my account. None of it from yours." The room went properly quiet now. Kevin's smile stayed on his face, but something behind it shifted. "Jade, come on. That is not the whole picture. I also have the statements from the joint account you stopped contributing to in month 4, Jade said. "I kept everything, Kevin. Every transfer. Every receipt. I was not sure I would ever need them, but I kept them." Peter set his drink down on the shelf. Kara crossed her arms slowly. A woman near the fireplace whose name was Diane and who had known Jade for 11 years looked at Kevin with an expression that had no warmth in it at all. Kevin tried a different angle. His voice dropped into something more reasonable, more generous, the voice of a man attempting to manage a situation. "I am not here to argue about money, Jade. I came to support you. We both did. I know this has been hard." "Support me," Jade said. "You have built something here. I can see that. I want you to know that. You told mutual friends for 2 years that I contributed nothing," Jade said. "You told people I was a freeloader. You told Priya I was a passenger who coasted on your stability." She paused. "She believed you because she had no reason not to. She moved into a house I paid for, and a kitchen I designed, and a garden I planted from bare soil, and she thought it was yours because you told her it was yours." She looked at Priya when she said this. Not unkindly. Directly. Priya stood completely still. The room was very quiet now. "My name is not on that house," Jade continued, "but my money paid for it every month for over 2 years. My hands painted those walls. My savings paid for that kitchen renovation. And when you told me to leave my key on the table and get out, I left. I did not argue. I did not make it a scene. I just left." She looked at the room, at the 30 people who had been there across 2 years, who had heard the version Kevin had been telling, who were hearing something different now. "I left and I built something that has my name on everything. Every document. Every receipt. Mine." The silence held for 3 full seconds. Then Diane started clapping. Slowly. Once, twice. Peter joined. Then Kara. Not a full performance. Not everyone. Just the people who had known, who had watched, who had said nothing for 2 years while Kevin told his story, and were now hearing the other one. Kevin stood in the middle of the room with 30 people looking at him, and nowhere to put himself. He looked at Priya. Priya was not looking at him. She was looking at the kitchen doorway. At the terracotta tiles she could see from where she stood. At the herbs on the windowsill. At the sink that she now understood had a tap that worked because the woman standing across the room from her had made sure it would work. At everything around her that had the same quality, the same care, the same invisible attention as the house she went home to every night. The house she had assumed was Kevin's in every sense that mattered. She looked at Kevin. "You told me she contributed nothing," Priya said. Her voice was quiet, but the room was quiet enough to carry it. "You told me she was a passenger. You told me you built that life." "Priya." Kevin's voice dropped. "This is not the place." "The kitchen tiles in our house," Priya said. "Did she choose those?" Kevin said nothing. "The colors in the bedroom before you repainted it. Did she choose those?" "Nothing." "The garden. The one I have watched go to pieces for a year because neither of us knows what was planted or where or what it needs." Priya looked at him steadily. "Did she do that too?" Kevin's jaw moved. No words came out. "I have been emptying a bowl under the kitchen sink every morning for 4 months, Priya said. "For months. You told me it had always leaked." "Had it always leaked, Kevin? Or did it start leaking after the person who maintained it left?" The room was absolutely still. Peter, standing near the bookshelf, looked at the floor. Kara had her hand over her mouth. Diane had stopped clapping and was watching Priya with something close to recognition. Kevin straightened. He tried the smile again. It did not find purchase on his face. "This has gotten completely out of hand. I came here to celebrate with you, Jade. I did not come here to be put on trial." "Nobody put you on trial," Simone said from the kitchen doorway. She had come through quietly and was leaning against the frame with a glass of wine and the particular calm of a woman who has been waiting 2 years to say something and has chosen her moment with great care. "You walked into her house uninvited and started telling her room full of friends that the finances were complicated. That was your choice." Kevin looked at Simone, then at Jade, then at the 30 people who were all, in their different ways, looking at him. He put his glass on the shelf near the ceramic figure he had picked up earlier. "I think we should go," he said to Priya. Priya did not move immediately. She looked at Jade. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not know. I only had his version." Jade looked at her for a moment. "I know," she said. "I know you didn't." Priya picked up her bag. She walked to the front door. She did not take Kevin's arm when he offered it. Kevin walked out behind her. Jade held the door. She watched them go down the front path to the car. She watched Kevin open the passenger door and Priya get in without looking at him, and Kevin walk around to the driver's side. She closed the door. The room exhaled. Someone said something. Someone else laughed, not cruelly, just the release of 30 people letting tension go. Diane came and stood next to Jade and put her arm around her shoulders without saying anything. Peter picked his drink back up. Simone appeared beside her. "You kept the receipts," she said. "I always keep everything," Jade said. Simone looked at her for a second. Then she went back to the kitchen and Jade went back to her guests and the party found its rhythm again. Warmer now, easier. The way a room feels after something true has been said in it. In the car, Priya looked out the window and did not speak. Kevin drove. He was quiet in the dense way of a man who is replaying something and cannot make it come out differently no matter which angle he approaches it from. They pulled into the driveway. Priya looked at the house. She had looked at this house hundreds of times. She had never looked at it like this. The overgrown corner of the front garden. The window frame that had needed repainting since September. The crack in the front path she stepped over every morning without thinking. She got out of the car. Let herself in. Went straight to the kitchen. Opened the cabinet under the sink. The bowl was there. She had emptied it that morning. There was already an inch of water in it. She stood looking at it for a long time. Then she went to bed. She lay in the pale cold bedroom and looked at the ceiling and thought about what it means to move into a life someone else built and call it yours. She thought about a woman standing in a warm kitchen surrounded by 30 people, calm and clear, saying, "I kept everything, Kevin, every transfer, every receipt." She thought about what it would feel like to be that certain of your own ground. She thought about the bowl under the sink. She did not sleep quickly. The last guest left just before 11. Jade stood at the front door and hugged her aunt and watched the taxi pull away. She closed the door. The house settled into the particular quiet that follows hours of people. Not empty. Settled. She collected a few glasses, carried them to the kitchen, stood at the counter and looked at the room for a moment. She turned on the tap. Water came immediately. She turned it off. She put the kettle on and stood at the window while it heated. The garden was dark outside, but she knew every inch of it. She knew what was planted and where and what needed attention and what was thriving and what she was going to move next weekend. She made tea and took it to the living room and sat in the chair she had chosen because when she sat in it in the shop, she had known immediately it was right. Her back settled. Her arms rested where they wanted to. She looked at the room. Walls she had chosen. Rugs she had chosen. Books she had read. Objects on the shelves that meant something to her and would mean nothing to a stranger. She thought about Kevin for a moment. She allowed herself to. She thought about the pavement and the cold and the yellow light on the ground she had stood outside of. She thought about the key on the table and the sound it made and the feeling of lifting her hand away from it and not picking it back up. She looked across the room at her key on the hook by the front door. Small. Brass. Catching the lamplight. She finished her tea. Got up. Turned off the lamp. Picked up the key on her way past. Felt it in her palm. She put it back on the hook and went to bed. Kevin will not fix the sink. He has had the information, the means, and a full year of a bowl filling up every night under his kitchen counter. He will not fix it because Kevin does not fix things. He moves through spaces other people build, and he puts his name on the paperwork and he calls it his. He has never understood the difference between owning something and caring for it, and tonight, standing in a room of 30 people who now understand that difference completely, did not teach him what 2 years of a leaking sink could not. The sink will keep leaking. The bedroom walls will stay pale. The heating will stay broken. The garden will keep retreating from the shape Jade gave it, slowly, one season at a time, until it looks like it belongs to nobody. Priya is lying in a cold bedroom right now, and she is thinking about the bowl under the sink and the pale walls and the broken heating and a woman who stood in her own living room and said, "I kept everything, every transfer, every receipt," with the steady confidence of someone who always knew this day would come eventually. Whether Priya stays or goes is her own story. That one is not finished yet. Jade will water her garden on Thursday morning. She will notice the lavender needs moving because the light has shifted. She will move it on Saturday. She will put the kettle on afterward and drink tea in a kitchen where everything works because she made sure it would, in a house where every document has her name on it, on a street where she owes nothing to anyone. She built it. It holds. And 30 people watched her say, so last night to the man who told them all it was his. But now I want to hear from you. Have you ever done the work that held something together, only for someone to call it nothing the moment they needed you gone? Have you ever had someone take credit for what you built, right up until the moment you proved them wrong in front of everyone who believed them? Or have you ever been the person who only had one version of a story, and then walked into a room and realized that version was a lie? Tell us your story in the comments. We read every single one. If this hit something in you today, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not subscribed to her drama tales yet, do it now. You do not want to miss what is coming next. We will see you in the next drama.